Good morning. This is Aisha Khalid, and this is today's Quiet Echo. The news reached me this week between patients the way news comes now, a line on a screen, a face I had not seen in years. Marjane Satrapi had died in Paris at 56. And I will tell you, I put the phone down, and when I got home in the evening, I went straight to the shelf and found my old copy of her book, Persepolis, its spine gone soft from one reading a long time ago, and I sat with it on my lap a while before I opened it. Maybe you know it. Maybe you have seen the film she made from it. It is the story of a girl in Tehran, 10 years old, drawn in plain black and white, in the year the veil became required. A girl who loved punk music and a denim jacket and a forbidden cassette her mother bought for her from a man in an alley. At 6, she had wanted to be a prophet. Her grandmother used to tuck jasmine flowers into her clothes, so she would always smell of spring. And then the revolution closed in around her childhood. Her parents grew frightened for her, and they sent her away alone to Vienna at 13. She came back to Iran as a young woman, and she could not stay, and in the end she left for good. Now, here is what she did with all of it, and why I think it matters. For most of the world, for most of us, if we are honest, the country she came from was a word on the news. A flag burning, a crowd, a slogan, a threat, the whole picture in a single word. And Satrapi took the word, and underneath it she drew a child. A real child, frightened and bored and rebellious, and loved sitting in a kitchen with her grandmother, in a city the headlines had flattened down to one grim idea. She would not let a whole people be a category. Page by page, panel by panel, she insisted on the person. And here is the strange power of a comic, those small hand-drawn boxes. You can skim a statistic, but you cannot look away from a face. A drawing of a frightened child you have to meet. And I think I loved her book because I knew the move from the other side of the desk. 20 years of practicing medicine teaches you how fast a human being turns into a category, a diagnosis, a number, a label written in the chart before the patient has even finished the first sentence, the non-compliant one, the anxious one, the difficult one. And I will be honest with you, I have been the category myself more than once. Read as foreign in my own town before I was ever read as a doctor or a neighbor or a friend. So when I watch Satrapi spend her whole life undoing this kind of flattening, I recognize the work. In a much smaller room, it is my work too. Let me give you an example, the kind happening in clinics every week. A man comes in and the chart says difficult. He has fired 2 doctors already, and you brace yourself before he even sits down. And then you learn he buried his wife last spring, and he has not told a soul, and difficult was simply the only word the chart had for a man who is drowning. The label was true and useless at the very same time. Satrapi spent her life living in the gap between the label and the person. And she never let herself harden into a symbol either. Just last year, she turned down the highest honor France gives, and France was the country she had loved and chosen and taken as her own, because she would not be decorated by a government whose posture toward Iran she believed was false. She was careful to say she meant no disrespect, and she loved France deeply. She simply would not let a medal stand in for the truth. It was the very same refusal worn down into one decision. And then there is the part I keep coming back to, the part still with me all week. Her family said she died of sadness. A little more than a year ago, her husband died, her closest collaborator, the love of her life, and she never really came back from it. Now, I am a physician, so I know grief is not only a figure of speech. The heart is a muscle, and real sorrow can stop it. We even have a name for it, but I do not want to reach for the clinical word here because it would do the very thing I am trying to warn against. It would turn her into a category. The truth is simpler and harder. A woman who spent her life refusing to let anyone become a symbol was undone by the least symbolic thing there is. She missed one specific man, every specific day, until she could not anymore. I have sat with this grief in my own exam room more times than I can count. The body keeps a ledger. And sometimes the last entry on the page is simply he is gone. The obituaries this week will do the very thing she fought her whole life. They will make her a symbol of Iran, of exile, of women, of art. And she was all of it, but she was also just a person who drew and grieved and chose. The danger of a kind obituary is the same as the danger of a good headline. It finishes the person off. It tidies her into a meaning. And the work she leaves the rest of us is the work she did on every single page. Look past the word to the face underneath it. So I am going to keep her book where I can see it. And tomorrow morning, there will be a patient on my schedule, someone the chart has already named, before I have even walked into the room. And I am really going to try to read the person first. This is Aisha Khalid, your host for today's Quiet Echo. Thanks for listening. Cedar Valley News has a Facebook group, and if you have something you want to say back, you are welcome to join the conversation. If a book or a film ever turned a faraway place into a single human face for you, I would like to know which one. I will put the link in the show notes. Quiet Echo is part of the fictional Cedar Valley News series, written by Evan Swenson, publisher, and Claude Marshall, AI developmental editor. While the people and town of Cedar Valley are fictional, Marjane Satrapi, her graphic memoir and film Persepolis, and the events of her life and death described in this episode are real.
You've been listening to the Cedar Valley News Podcast, where small-town voices meet the headlines shaping our world. From faith and family to front porches and fields. We'll be back with more stories connecting real lives to real events. Until next time, keep your porch light on, your faith strong, and your heart open. This is Cedar Valley News.